This is the next segment of what kind of God did Isaiah worship. Jehovah's Witnesses, though they talk a lot about the sovereign Lord Jehovah, actually exhibit an attitude like the Jews of Isaiah's day. In the first decades of witness history, the Watchtower actually taught that Jehovah lived within the physical universe. To be precise, in the constellation Pleiades. That reference, by the way, you might want to look up. It's in Studies in the Scriptures, Volume 3, and also in Reconciliation. If you want the information precisely, we can send you the tract PDF form. So they believed that Jehovah was limited to the physical universe, a constellation. Though witnesses no longer teach this, they still think of God as occupying space in heaven. And like those Jews of old, they believe Jehovah can only associate with those with whom the Watchtower approves. But sovereign means that God makes the rules. In the above text from Isaiah, having inquired of Israel where the house is in which they thought to contain him, Jehovah adds that he will look to the one who is humble and contrite of spirit, and who trembles at my word. That's Isaiah 66, verse 2. Surely Jehovah's Witnesses do not think that they can read hearts well enough to determine who these humble, contrite individuals are. Claiming the attributes of God, and one of these is the ability to read hearts, is what the Bible calls blasphemy. Reducing Jehovah to human or any other likeness is what the Bible calls idolatry. Jehovah, God of grace and mercy. The pagan gods were cruel, exacting taskmasters, and their devotees stood at best in the relation of suppliants or servants. These deities demanded great and inhumane sacrifices of their followers, even to the revolting extreme of the offering of living infants to the fire of Molech. Manasseh, king of Judah, even imported these pagan notions of true worship into the city of Jerusalem. It should not surprise us that Jewish tradition connects the reference to saints sawn asunder to Isaiah's martyrdom by Manasseh. Look up Hebrews 11:37 on that. Isaiah had preached a God who could and would not be appeased by even the best that humans can offer, who will be approached only on the basis of faith and trust, particularly trust in his mercy and forgiveness. In fact, it is in Isaiah 55, in the context of Jehovah's offer of free bread and free water, that the famous statement that my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, neither are your ways my ways, is heard. That's Isaiah 55, verse 8. This God would abundantly pardon, according to verse 7, not because Israel had purchased his pardon, though, with their own lives or the lives of their children. It's the sacrifice of God's Son, according to the prophecies of Isaiah, not our sacrifices, that's the basis of forgiveness. See the entirety of chapter 53, the most glorious of messianic prophecies. Also chapter 1 of Isaiah, verses 10 to 18. Jehovah God of faithful covenant love. Though Israel in Isaiah's day was blind and deaf to the true God, Jehovah still called them his witnesses. That's Isaiah 43, verses 7 to 12. They, despite continual revolt and backslidings against their God, were actually even better qualified to be his witnesses than a faithful Israel could have been. That because it was precisely Jehovah's ability and willingness to save an unfaithful and disloyal people that made him distinct from the pagan deities, who held their worshippers in permanent slavery simply because they would not forgive any deflections. Therefore, the God of Israel was distinguished from his rivals precisely in that his holiness included grace as its outstanding attribute, whereas the service of pagan gods was abject, slavish, the terror of disobeying a master rather than the fear of hurting a father. Check out Isaiah 63, verses 8 to 10. In that very verse from which Jehovah's Witnesses obtain their name, Jehovah says, I am the same one. Isaiah 43, verse 10 in the New World Translation. I am he as the ASV and the NAS render it. In this famous passage, it is a declaration of his faithful covenant love for Israel that is the evidence of Jehovah being the same one. Here, as in all the I am passages of Isaiah, it is Jehovah's faithfulness to the unfaithful, his loyalty to the disloyal, his eternal unchangeableness that set him apart from the contract gods, as we might call them, like Baal, who were as fickle as their followers. Jehovah was a faithful husband to Israel, even if she proved a continually unfaithful wife. You will not be forgotten on my part. I am the one that is wiping out your transgressions for my own sake, and your sins I shall not remember. That Isaiah 44 verse 21, 43:25 in the New World Translation. The false gods were faithful too. They dependably failed to make good on promises or fulfill their prophets' predictions. And they were fickle in their affections, even to those who had faithfully served them for decades. Which God does the God of the Watchtower most closely resemble? Jehovah of the Bible or the little gods of paganism? If you want, I'll send you a copy by PDF.